Cool, cool. What's good, everybody? Welcome to Jane Ambassador Office Hours number 11. Practice cheerleaders, elevating your patient experience to drive loyalty and referrals. Like I said, my name is Dr. David Bruton Jr. I'm a former NFL vet, current clinic owner, and passionate believer in the power of human connection in healthcare. Today, we are talking about the most important and often overlooked aspect of growing a successful practice, how we show up for our patients emotionally, and how that experience can turn casual patients into lifelong advocates. I'm thrilled to be joined by two powerhouse PTs who I've actually had the pleasure of meeting in person last week in Palm Springs for our Jane Ambassador retreat. Roni, DPT Roni Glassman, and Emma Jack both bring a wealth of knowledge, clinical experience, leadership, and deep understanding of what it takes to create not just a loyal patient, but raving fans. Now, together, we'll unpack ways that we can elevate our patient experience, boost retention, and encourage organic and heartfelt referrals. Thank you so very much, Roni and Emma, for joining today's podcast. Go ahead and tell everybody a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and to have this conversation. My name is Emma Jack. I'm a sport and orthopedic physical therapist up in London, Ontario, in Canada. I've owned my practice now for 8 years and primarily treat athletes and hockey athletes. And most of the work I do actually now is working with fellow clinic owners, solo practitioners, and helping them build a sustainable practice that feels really fun and good for them. So I sort of see both sides. I'm in a lot of other clinicians' business and seeing, what works for them. And I really think there's no one right thing. So I would really encourage as we chat about things today for people to really check in with themselves and decide what would feel good and right for them. Ronnie?
Hi. Yes. Thanks first of all for having me. This is my first webinar. Love to be here. I'm super excited to be able to chat with you guys. And it's just fun already seeing you online since we just met in person last week. Like David said, I'm a physical therapist. I'm based in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is like 2 hours south of Nashville. I opened my own physical therapy practice about 14 months ago, left the corporate world to pursue my own thing. And alongside that, I host a podcast called the Rehab with Roni podcast. And I'm really excited about this topic today because I think we're going to touch on a lot of really important things that are near and dear to my heart and to my patient population, which my patient population is more so the active adults of Chattanooga. I like to call them the weekend warriors. I see a lot of weightlifters, I see a lot of runners, and right now, triathletes. So,
Oh, that's thank you very much, both very much for the introduction. One, triathletes, y'all are one in a million. Like that is serious. I can't swim, so you'll never see my black butt in pool. So like I won't even do that mile swim. Yeah, no, not at all. No, this is great though. So we have two great PTs who one who's been in practice for a while, so has done their own thing. Now is on the business coaching side. And Ronnie, 14 months. I didn't even know you were at 14 months. I thought you were a lot longer than that until I did some research and then you just sharing it there. So that's great. I mean, I think we're going to tap in different aspects of and different timelines as far as what that cheerleading looks like and how it could potentially have evolved for you all respectively. So just a quick story times, like a little bit about how you can have a patient advocate for your practice if one of y'all are willing to share.
yeah, I've got one that came to mind immediately when I was just thinking about this topic. Um, I started inside of a gym setting before I was in this space that you see now. And so a lot of the people that were referring patients to me were personal trainers. And so then when I moved to this space, I got to treat a personal trainer that I had previously worked with in that space. And I got him feeling a lot better. And this was only over the course of like 2 or 3 visits, which I'm not a miracle worker. It just happened to be that he got better pretty fast. And I think on his last visit, I said, "Hey, this last one's on me. I really appreciate you sending people to me." I think he had sent me one other client. And since then, he has sent me probably 4 or 5 other patients down over to the other side of the building to Rehab with Ronnie for their initial evaluations. And This was not even like a conversation I really had with him. He just enjoyed his experience so much and talked about it organically with his clients. And then they have become patients of mine, which then get better and go back to personal training. So it's been a really lovely working relationship.
Absolutely. Love that. Love
Mhm.
that organic connection that you didn't even have to ask, right? Sometimes that's the
Yeah.
awkward thing. Can you make sure
Mhm.
you share a little bit about myself? Share, here's some cards. Can you pass this on? Here's my QR code. Have them scanned, right? No, it's great that it just organically happened. Emma,
Yeah, I think, something I've really focused on is making sure that people feel like they're being just treated like a human. I think so often when we go through the healthcare system, we become, patient X or a number. And I've really focused on the humanity of my clients. And so when I think about, some of the gestures that really just come naturally to me that I would just do human to human, I had a client one time who had to cancel her appointment because she had a family member pass. And so, like, just very naturally, not from a marketing perspective, I sent flowers and a skip the dishes card. And the way that impacted her, she continued to talk about it with me years later. I think we're meeting people sometimes at really difficult points in their life, and just to acknowledge the challenges that they're facing and being, a greater support. Sometimes when people
mhm,
don't have that support, that really lasts. And I always think, when you make a good patient connection, good people know and like good people. And so just to Ronnie's point, when you knock it out of the park with the patient experience, people are way more likely to share in return.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I just let's share a little bit about my experience. I had one patient a couple of years ago, and he was scheduled to do a back surgery, and his wife wanted to find a sports PT and somebody who was insane with their workouts and their exercises and understood what it was like. And so he came, saw me, and we were able to get his back surgery canceled, and we became golfers and buddies, and like everywhere he goes, like if he's in a four-man scramble with me, he's like, "Hey, this guy is." He's with my PT. He's a great friend. He's did this for me. Yada yada yada. You got this going on. My surgeon told me I'll never golf again. Here I am hitting 300-yard drives. Right. So like, and now it's like, oh, this man after my own heart. We're golfing. I love it. Cool. We'll block some time out to golf. But yeah, just seeing to your point, seeing the person as a whole
Yeah.
person. Like this guy was not just a number. He was a former triathlete. Again, I'll never do it. He was a former triathlete, but he wanted to golf. He wanted to get back to back squatting and stuff like that. So it's like, what are your goals as a person? Not just I want to be pain free. Like, what are your real goals? Like when you ask a patient,
Yeah.
like, what are your goals? Well, I want to be pain free, nothing in my back. I was like, cool. I give a crap, but I don't give a crap. What do you want to do in the long run? Like, what's your super
Yeah.
bowl? What's your thing, right? So, yeah. Now, everybody who's joined in on the webinar, we'll tap into it at the end, but please drop your own stories in the chat. We'd love to hear from how you've had a patient come become a true advocate for you, whether that's just through a patient interaction or a community event or something like that. We would just love to hear. But let's start off with question one. What is one small, unexpected gesture that made a patient feel so valued and that they referred others to you?
I have a little bit of a ritual when it's discharge day for my clients. I have these enamel pins. I don't know how well you can see it there, but it says, "Thank you for being a piece of our heart." And that's my branding, press play. And it was always this opportunity kind of to acknowledge the work that that person had put in and the relationship we had built and sort of that like continuing lasting reminder. And what I didn't realize in doing these, I mean, they literally are 55 cents a piece when you buy them in bulk. This is not a like massive investment, but people really started to like, wear them as a bit of a sign of pride. Like people were putting them on their purse, on their gym bags, and people were recognizing each other out in the community and starting to connect based on these pins. So, something so small, very inexpensive, but really just acknowledging the time that we spent together, and that little token just, has had such a big impact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a
Only
great
55 cents a piece.
story.
That's great.
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to
Yeah.
get some.
You should get some.
Right.
They're the best. I've got a
Yeah.
guide. I've got a
I
guide.
gotta do that.
Like, I give away t-shirts, but I feel like pins are cooler, and then they can always have them on their person instead of just like
Yes.
the one day they wear the t-shirt.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's good.
yeah.
Um, Bouncing off Emma's, mine's a little, I guess, more like less concrete, but it just came to mind because I just finished an eval where I had seen this guy years ago, and he just came back today with a different issue, but kind of something similar. Long story short, I had treated him for a hip thing, but he is now having this neck thing. And I said, "Oh, how is that neck, by the way? And are you still doing this exercise?" And it was this nerve glide, if we're going to get really PT specific. And he was like, "How do you remember that? Like, how did you? That was so long ago." And it's not like I sit there and try to memorize facts about people, but if you can think of small things that they say or things that they do that are important to them, and then circle back after a few visits or after a few months, it doesn't even have to be injury related or injury specific. It can be like, how are your kids doing? Or I heard like your mom's sick, how she like just small details that don't really pertain to their case but are pertaining to their life. That creates a unique experience, and that they remember that. They remember that you remember, and it shows a different level of care, I think.
Absolutely. That active listening piece, right? Like the
Hmm.
active listening goes a long ways. Like, show that you're invested. You're listening to the person. You're not just a shoulder or a neck or a hip. You're a lot more than that. So, yeah. How's those kids? And I think we should definitely know that just by, okay, I have a shoulder issue. I want to be able to pick up my 3 year old or whatever without pain. So like just in our subjective, we should be able to pull some of that information there and like make it more humane and
Totally.
make that relatability piece. I mean, it's crazy. So for everybody out there listening, it doesn't have to be something grandiose, right? You just don't have to do like this big like post on Instagram here, yada yada yada, blah blah blah. You can do something as small as the token. You do something as small as the t-shirt. I have stickers here, bringing patients coffee. Like I did it for a couple high schoolers, and they're at the 7 a.m. slot, and they're like, my mom booked at 7 a.m. It's like I'll bring you a matcha or a coffee. You
So
just let me know
good.
what your coffee order is, right?
Yes.
Right? Or playing a favorite song. Like, oh, this is your favorite song? Cool. Let's rock out to it. As long as it's not
Yeah.
country in my clinic. We don't play country in here. I know Ronnie's in Tennessee. We don't play that
I was
country.
gonna say I definitely play some Chris Stapleton radio for
Yeah,
sure.
there ain't no Chris Stapleton, Chris nothing. Nothing's going on here. Oh, so yeah, let's just keep on going. How can you integrate these wow moments or personal gestures into your daily workflow? I know we talked about when they graduate PT or they're getting discharged, but even in your busiest of days, how do you incorporate these personal gestures into your workflow?
I think um, at the end of the day, I always make a point to, or at the end of their appointment, rather, make a point to ask, is there anything I missed? And do you have any questions for me? Because it's
Mhm.
easy, especially in a
Yeah.
busier clinic. I think it's a little bit more simple now that I'm just one on one. But if you're in a really busy, high volume, high turnover clinic, like you can get just caught in the workflow of things and you're like, okay, bye, see you next week. But taking 30 seconds to ask, do you have any questions for me? But did any of this confuse you? Is there anything we need to follow up on? Because maybe they did and they were just waiting for the right time, or maybe they didn't, but now that they're thinking on it, they're like, actually, yeah, my home exercises, I need to know X, Y, and Z. That just gives you opportunity to have like one meaningful conversation and kind of cap it off on a good note.
Yeah, absolutely,
I love that.
absolutely, Emma.
I love that. I think it's also like knowing, again, coming back to it doesn't have to be elaborate. I think, especially this day and age, it's so nice when to just know that somebody's thinking of you. So oftentimes I will keep in my calendar who I'm going to sort of follow up with, or, just check in on them. If I've done a new assessment a couple days later, I know in my calendar, okay, I need to just send them a quick email just to make sure that they're doing okay with their exercises and post assessment. And it's sort of like just
Mhm.
that tiny, it again, it takes 30 seconds for me to, draft that email. Same for referral sources. If I see that a new assessment has come in and they tell me who referred them, taking 2 seconds and writing a thank you card and getting that in the mail, like that's something you
Hmm.
can do once a week. I usually budget 20, 30 minutes for it, and it never takes that long.
Yeah.
But those are like, again, it's just like that little thing that not a lot of other people are doing that people really notice. Like, who gets fun mail these days? No one. We just get bills. So getting something in the mail is like, it is nice and it's memorable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Can I just say I love how Emma has always something else
I,
to pull out? Like, so there's
guys,
this, there's this. We'll give it
always be
whatever we want.
branding. Always be branding. Okay. These are my Christmas
Oh,
cards.
Right? Love it. I love it. I love it. And I know this is something that's sometimes frowned upon, but this is something that I do. It's like just giving my cell phone number, give my personal cell phone number. Like if you have questions, feel free to shoot me a text and ask. Like building that relationship there. And I guess what's your thoughts? Do you give people your cell phone numbers? I
I
know
don't.
it's a little. It's a
And
little, yeah, right. It's like it's different, like because some people won't
yeah.
set that boundary or something like that. But um,
Having said that, I have given out my personal cell phone number and nobody has abused it. But I
mhm,
do know, like on this webinar, there probably are professions where that's probably definitely
mhm,
not within
yeah,
their college
yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like that. But I do think having people understand that you are very invested in them and very invested in their care, and here's what happens in between our appointments is really important. And and that's again a bit of a difference I've found between US and Canada, is a lot of cash based and just private healthcare in general. They are more open. I've had surgeons phone numbers to be able to text them and call them, and that just straight up wouldn't happen here in Canada. So it's,
Mhm,
I think, less common. Certainly I've done it, but I think I wouldn't like put it out to the masses personally.
yeah,
I
mhm,
think it's a personal choice.
I was giving away my personal cell number for like a year-ish, and then it got to be where I was like constantly on my phone and I kind of needed a divider, and so then I got a business phone number. But I still agree with the principle of like give them a way to contact you, at least have it be an email, so that way if
Yeah.
anything comes up in between visit 1 and visit 2, they have a way to talk to you about it.
yeah.
And they're not harassing you at like 11 p.m. I'm not going to make it tomorrow. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, right. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious about that. Like, I've never ran
Hmm.
into anybody who abused it, but it's like, oh, you're going on a vacation for 2 weeks and you have this spinal stenosis thing. All
Yeah.
right, let me know how it goes in the middle of the week. Like, just give me a check in. So if we need to revamp an exercise or something, or jump on the phone, we have that. Every now and then, I do have. Actually, I take that back. I do have a kid who's a patient, and they get him and his dad give me crap about my calves. Like, oh, your calves are small. I'm like, my calves are fast. Damn it, my calves, I can run. But he'll send me like reels of like this small calf or like these. But I was like, oh, I'm
That's
gonna fight you
abuse.
next time.
So, so they're trolling you now. They're
Yeah.
trolling you.
yeah, that's what it is. But it's all in good jest for sure. Um, how do y'all handle when a patient doesn't have a great experience? Like whether that's in one visit or they decide to not see you anymore, or they finish their package and you haven't heard from them in 14 months or however long, whatnot. How do you navigate essentially failing to have somebody advocate for you or them having a great experience with you?
Yeah, I think, and I know we talked about this last week in person. I think it's so important to normalize that, like, you won't be for everyone. And
Mhm,
that is a-okay. And I think what can be really helpful is, setting the stage early on in that therapeutic relationship in that first appointment. Honestly, I'll often say, like, I really love feedback and I'm open to feedback. And if something's not going well or you want to do something different, like, the only way I can know that is if you tell me.
mhm,
And so, sort of normalizing feedback, because I think, as certain people have more of a challenge with feedback. And I also open the door that, like, it's okay if I'm not the provider for you. But I want you to let me know that so I can help you find the provider that would serve you better. I think there's a lot we can do in terms of, I think this is something that the mental health space does really well that PT, Chiro could do better at is the matching process. So often with PT, it's like, people just book the initial assessment and move forward. And mental health is so good at being like, let's meet first, see if it's a good fit before we do, further work together. And so I really like to normalize for people, if this isn't the right fit, that's okay. Let's make sure I help you find that right fit.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, Jane does a great job of having a consult, like a consult thing, and then,
Yeah.
send for a 10, 15-minute consult just to see if there's a match. Like, right?
Yeah. I think
Like, I
that's
got to
really
vibe with you, you
important.
got to vibe with me. Yeah.
I think that's a really important thing. And also on the practitioners, like we as practitioners it's also okay if we're like, you know what, this case, this condition,
Hmm.
I'm not the best person. I'm not the best fit for this. Like, I'm not the best fit for a golfer, but there are PTs in my community that would absolutely thrive with a golfer and are upskilled and trained in that way. So why would I pretend that I could serve them as well? I think it is
Hmm.
really important that we ensure good fit because that just makes the rest of the relationship go better.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Ronnie.
Yeah, I almost have like nothing to add. I feel like she covered it so well. I think um just there's so much weight in the first impression, and so making sure that they understand kind of where you're at in terms of you as a practitioner, what you typically treat, and what they can expect moving forward. So I am very exercise based in my approach, but I'll do hands-on manual treatment too, and so that hasn't happened to me a lot. But if I have somebody who is more so looking for just manual treatment, I
Hmm.
really address that like head on. Like, hey, I saw in your intake paperwork you're just looking for this specific type of treatment. I've got a great massage therapist that I can refer you to. Like, but this is more so up my alley this way, and this is the way that I
Hmm.
treat. So, what do you think about that? And just being really
Hmm.
direct but professional and making sure that it's a good fit from the get go so that they're not coming in visit two, three, like, why aren't we doing X, Y, and Z? So, just really setting
Yeah,
that expectation day one.
I think
for
what that
sure.
also does is it gives a really good customer experience still with your business, right? If you're the
Hmm.
person who connected them to the right therapist, they still have a really good opinion of your business.
Hmm.
And I've definitely had people who sort of, I connected them to somebody else in the community. And then when a friend or family member needed something, they were like, you know what, chat with her first, because if you're not right for her, she'll find somebody,
Yep.
she'll help you find somebody. And so it's
Yep.
still a really good business interaction, even if you don't end up serving them.
Hmm.
And I feel like sometimes you'll run into a problem as a new business owner. It's like, I have to see everybody. Like, no, no,
Yes.
come see
Yes.
me, come see me. No, there's no other PTs out there. Damn that. No, everybody's here. Me. Right?
Yes.
But
Totally.
you're not doing them any service. You're not doing yourself any service. Because if you're not comfortable treating that, they're going to have a bad
Yep.
patient experience, and then now you're essentially, they're going to advocate like, nah, that was a waste of time. I don't feel any better. Like, we didn't make any progress. Yada. Now you have this bad, you know, bad
Yeah, bad
flow, bad
encounter.
mojo that's out
Yeah,
there floating around, and that's how you kill a business, not grow your business, right?
Yeah, and the
totally.
thing is, like, I think what I've learned over the past year is patients and providers really want you to niche down. Like, I mean, not so much so that you're like, I only treat shoulders, which maybe you could do that, but I don't go into businesses anymore and say, I treat everything. I give them my ideal clientele. So that way, when people are sending me potential patients or clients, they already have an idea of this is the kind of person that she's used to treating and comfortable treating, right? So, like
Hmm.
Emma said with golfers, I don't see a lot of golfers. I would probably refer out if they were a serious golfer. Um, so niching down a little bit helps make everything nice and clear on day one.
For sure, for sure.
Right.
Now, beyond clinical outcomes, what are you doing to make the patients emotionally invested in your practice's success?
Yeah, I think there's been a couple things that I feel I very unintentionally did different, that helped build a really good sense of community within my clinic. I hosted a lot of workshops and events with outside providers. So, whether it was breath work or personal development workshops that I brought external facilitators into. And that sort of took that one-on-one encounter, and then people kind of got to meet each other who were, a part of the business, but, never interacting with each other within the business. And that
Hmm.
created a really good sense of community. Same with like I did group classes. And so again, when you take it from one to one and it's more of a community and you're seeing the same people every week and you're getting to know
Hmm.
them and there's some accountability there, like I really saw how that made people sort of more loyal to what I
For
was
sure.
building and
Yeah.
felt like they were more a part of something. I definitely have like sponsored teams in my community and some of my
Hmm.
athletes, and that's been really beneficial just for people understanding that I am a part of this community, and what's happening outside of my four walls really matters.
Yep. Yep.
And some like fundraising things where it feels like we're like all working together towards a common goal. Like all of those different things in combination sort of take it from that really what can feel a bit more transactional to something that feels more like community. And I think again, this day and age, people want to feel like they are a part of something and have a space where they belong. And if we can
Hmm.
cultivate that, I think the impact is immense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
No,
Yeah.
I love that. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say, with my business being so much newer, I've had the experience of patients really getting to like witness all the change that's happened over the past year. And that helps them. I think they feel like they're part of the journey because they literally are. I mean, I went from treating people in like my guest room to then working in this private space in a personal training gym to now
Hmm.
here, all within the course of like 12 months,
Hmm.
14, 15 months. And so just them being able to witness this change that's taken place with my business and knowing that they're part of the reason that I'm able to like move from one space to another and have all of this growth, and then just kind of including them in that story. I mean, I'm giving them updates. I'm like, "Yeah, this is how it's going." Just keeping them personally involved if they're interested, and not everybody is, but a lot of people that have been seeing me on and off for a while are, and just, yeah, including them in the story has been
Hmm.
really fun, and I wouldn't be here if it weren't for them, and I just make sure that they know that.
Yeah, and I think
I love that.
the common theme there is just building that community, whether that's with you and your personal experience and growing your business in those 12 months from here to this gym to your other side of a gym and building that relationship with the personal trainer and with you and your workshops there. And if we just circle back to Jane Ambassador Hours a few months ago with Roxanne and Queen, we talked about community, we talked about inclusivity, and see how
Yeah.
everything's tying together. Like we're not just throwing episodes at y'all. Like we're we're being real. Like everything, there's a method to this
Yeah.
madness, right? Like there's a lot of information, but at the end of the day, it's like how can we as practitioners grow our community? How can we benefit our community? And synergistically, that community is going to benefit us.
Yeah.
You're looking at the numbers game, right? It's like I want to see more patients, or I want to beat this dollar amount. It's like, well, you have to invest your time in the community. You got to show that you care more than just what's going on in your four walls, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
100%. Um, so, what's kind of your playbook for encouraging happy patients? What do you do? What do you do? Like I mentioned earlier, we're not sending out business cards and QR codes and yada yada yada. Like share this, do this, that, and the third. What's kind of like your game plan as far as increasing that loyalty, increasing that advocacy?
I would say I just have put so much thought, energy, and attention into the whole experience from start to finish, in terms of, the language in that first welcome email they get from Jane to what I'm asking in the intake form to when they park in my parking spot and the sign and what the sign in the my sign does not say all
Mhm.
others will be towed. It's like this is for the stellar clients of Press Play Physio. Like I put so much attention just to like every little part of the journey. I'm somebody, I don't know if anybody else on this webinar is like this, but I'm a girly who has parking anxiety. So I make sure that 24 hours before, people were coming in, they were getting exact pictures of like where you're going to park, the exact picture of the door you're going to enter. I just tried to think about that whole experience and where anybody may have, any sort of feelings pop up and trying
Yeah.
to soften that experience. And so it's
Mhm.
like these little touches where people could tell I was putting thought into their experience that I think really stayed with them. And that's what's really helped people share and come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about, goal setting, like personal goal setting in the beginning, and I think it's important to talk about on day 1, but it's important to revisit, like, middle of the plan of care, end of the plan of care, and throughout, because a lot of times they'll say, like, 5 different things, and maybe they forgot that that was something that they wanted to get back to, or they never considered that it was a possibility. So, being really pointed and asking like, "Hey, how's this going? Have we tried this? How can we get you closer to that goal?" Because then they realize that you're really invested and along for the ride. Like, we're not just trying to get some objective measure, we're trying to get you back to living your life to its fullest so that you don't even need me
Mhm.
anymore.
Mhm.
And they, when they're talking about that, we're constantly revisiting. They're like, okay, yeah, like this is the reason that I'm coming. This is why being compliant with all the things she's telling me is important. um, so I think that's really helpful on top of
Yeah.
everything that Emma said. I'm getting inspired by everything that she's saying. I'm like, I need to do something in my
Right.
parking lot. That's a great idea.
Right. It's
Yeah.
like, shoot, parking lot, or let's change how the verbiage in the email looks like.
Change.
You
You
Yeah.
have to make it like there's so many, and that's what I love about Jane is there's so many ways you can make it your own, right? Like,
Hmm.
instead of being like it's almost time for your appointment, mine says like I'm so excited to see you today. Like you can
Mhm.
really change it to like what would you actually say to this person, so that they feel like they're like already getting to know you before
Yeah.
before they've entered, right? And then
Yeah.
it also has them feel more safe and comfortable with you because how you've shown up in that initial email and how you spoke in that appointment reminder and what they're seeing on social media, it's like all so consistent. And again, I think for me it's just so important that there is an element of levity and fun and lightness to the
Mhm.
whole experience. And so yeah, it works.
Yeah. Never thought about that. It's like, yeah, no pain, no gain in the email. There we go.
There you go.
Pain is weakness leaving the body.
Make it
Oh,
your own.
you ready to work?
Practice however you want.
Oh, that's amazing. Have y'all done anything like a referral program or anything like that? And how do you keep track of that? Do any of y'all do that? I know you get the referrals from people and you give them a card or this, that, and the third, or thank you, or give them a cup of coffee or whatnot. But do you have a program for those patients who refer, one patient, three patients, five patients in a month or a quarter or something like that?
When I don't have a specific program set up, I do it more based off of like the things that I'm tracking. So, for example, like the person that I talked about in the beginning, who I knew he had sent me several clients. Um, I make sure that I reach out and I let him know how appreciative I am, and then if there's anything that he ever needs from me, like say he needed to come back in, that would just sort of be like a on the house visit, like a thank
Mhm.
you for everything that you have done and thank you for sending me the business and just really showing the value of what I do. And then I wouldn't, again, it's not like an official program, but if I have a great experience with the client and I can tell that it's a mutual connection and they've loved everything that's happened throughout the course of their plan of care, at the end I'll just have a conversation with them like, hey, thank you so much, for just being such a great team player. Here's a Rehab with Ronnie t-shirt and um, blah, blah, blah about a Google review. But also, if you can think of anybody in your life that's been struggling with any pains or if there's anything that they're trying to get back to and they're just sort of not getting there, I would love to meet them. I'd love to connect with them, whether that be, you send me their email or just share my card. And just that's a good way to create a natural relationship without being like,
Hmm.
hey, scan my QR code. Here's my official program. Get enrolled. And I think that's fine too. I just haven't tried that yet. So just more so having
Yeah.
those natural conversations has been sort of what works for me.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
love that. I also don't have like a official referral program, but I think the most important thing is acknowledgement. Nothing drives me personally more crazy because I do refer a lot of people, a lot of places. And personally, like I get a little salty when I've referred 5 or 6 people a certain place and I never hear from them. And so I think acknowledgement is really important. Again, I like a handwritten thank you card. I don't think it necessarily has to be something that's like overly monetary. I think people just like to feel validated and
Hmm.
acknowledged. So
Yeah.
that's my way of
Okay. Well, dress. I
encouraging.
was hoping y'all had a way to figure out instead of me doing like, oh, I have to keep track of it. Oh, did they put it in their notes that this person referred them? Oh, you want to tell me at your eval? Cool. Let me find my Google sheet and put that down under their name. So, oh my goodness. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Well, Jane, if there's a way, let me know.
Ooh,
Let me know. 'Cause I'm trying
that's an
to
idea.
have this. Yeah.
Right now it does have like, the types of referral sources, but you can't necessarily put it in. So I think
Hmm.
that we can like flag that as a for the product team. I would
Yeah.
like to be able to put like the actual referral source in and
Yeah.
make it trackable.
Yeah, like,
Jack,
Yeah, and
any
it
map
goes to
feedback?
their
a patient
Google
and it goes to a
location.
patient or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
goes to that patient. Yeah.
Love it.
And comes with a little
Okay.
sticker. Yeah, they got a lot of work to do. Jack, yeah, get on that, Jack. Get on that, Jack, for sure. Do y'all do patient success stories? I mean, do you post things on patient success stories? They give you the green light, and how frequently are you doing it? Are you how are you sharing it?
Yeah, I love to do that if that is something that aligns for the person. I think
Hmm.
there's definitely, and I'm sure we've all felt this to a degree, there's people who are very social media forward and there are people who are very private, and I totally respect both. But for some people, that's actually something that feels really good and exciting for them. And so I would always like to again, I think that's a form of acknowledgement,
Hmm.
is to like celebrate that graduation day.
Yep.
And so yeah, I think I again, it's probably different for different professions and different
Hmm.
states and provinces, but I do get people to sign a release
These
on
forms.
that
Yep.
just to make sure that I'm doing my due diligence. But
Hmm.
oftentimes
Hmm.
it is something that people are really proud of. Like, regardless of your profession, if people are, ending their time with you, they've done really hard work to get where they are, and I think that can be something that feels really
Yeah.
exciting for people.
Well, absolutely.
Yes, I'm
We all
never
love a pat on the back,
confident.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I never know if they wanna be featured on the social media, so if it's someone that I feel particularly close with and they've really come a long way and I've gotten good video footage of it because I'm, like, updating their app, and so they have videos of all the exercises they've done. I'll be like, "Hey, can I post this to the story and talk about, like, started from the bottom, now we're here." And I've done that a handful of times, but yeah, yeah. But, um, no, I guess more so it's just these in-person, in-clinic celebrations, like, "Yay, look where you started, and now look where we are."
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm.
That little bit of acknowledgement goes a long way. Goes a long way. Feeling like you've done like you're being rewarded, being celebrated. That whole so you know how mad would you be if it got to your birthday and nobody said happy birthday, right? Like
Yeah.
something that small, that small.
Yeah.
So
Cute.
remember, my birthday is July 23rd, y'all.
Yeah,
So
I know, I got it written
happy
down.
birthdays. Gotta
Locked.
get some happy birthdays all in there. Leo season. Leo season. Me and Ronnie are Leo season's coming
I
soon.
got you.
Yeah. So final question. Before we look at some of the stories that our attendees shared. For practitioners or teams who are overwhelmed by busy schedules and struggling to prioritize referrals, what's the simplest, most effective way you've seen to boost your loyalty and drive referrals?
I think not forgetting to do it. I think it's so important to have the conversation, whether it's in client session. Like Roni said, saying to a client, I'm actually accepting new patients right now. And so if there's anybody, friends, family that you think would be a good fit for my services, like I would love to meet them. That's something you can include within your busy day. But ultimately, I think, what I see happen for a lot of clinicians is they get in a bit of a cycle where they're so booked and busy that they aren't spending time, thinking about
Mhm.
referrals, thinking about, sort of the long game. And then, they discharge a lot of people and then they kind of panic, like, oh no, I don't have a caseload now. And so they do all the things to generate referrals and then they get themselves busy. And it's like kind of this revolving cycle. And so I think it is really important. Patient care is great, and it's what we want to be doing and what we've been trained to do. But I also think it's really important that we are spending some time every week. And again, it can be 20 minutes, it can be 30 minutes, just doing these low hanging fruit, sending that quick 2-line email to thank for a referral, checking in with somebody really quick. I think taking time to do that pays off in dividends also in your stress later on. If you
Mhm.
know you have like this constant churn coming of people coming in, it's just going to feel better on your nervous system, and that is going to make you just overall a better human.
Yes, I feel like I'm literally the living, breathing example of what you're talking about. Like I've gotten to a place now where it's been busier over the spring, and I don't feel like I've done a great job blocking off time on my schedule to go and do the things that got these referrals
Mhm.
generated in the first place. And so I'm feeling motivated during this webinar to block off some more time on my schedule because, all it takes is being intentional about scheduling breaks so that you can do admin things. And that is an admin thing. And so, yeah, just being intentional about your schedule and making sure that it's a regular business thing that you're working on. And it doesn't even always have to be in person. To Emma's point, it can be just a follow up email. But
Mhm.
yeah, can't wait to get back to it.
Yeah, right. I did like you, Ronnie. I felt targeted. I felt targeted. Like,
Yeah, I'm like whoa.
damn, I'm busy. I'm busy, but I can't do anything in the community unless I do stuff on the weekends. And with the kids, all their sports and activities, I don't have weekends
Hmm.
either. So, but yeah, no, it's great. Jane also has that automated review, right? So,
Yeah,
you click that reviews like I think I have it at every 5 appointments or whatever. It's like, how's it going? How are you doing? If things are going well, please share. So, kind of having the
yeah,
idea of like, are we missing the boat? But that appointment check in, like during the session, like you were talking about, it was like that goes a long way too.
it's
Just making sure
huge.
they're being
It's
heard and
huge.
listened to and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh man, I just saw the Eisenhower Matrix pop up in the chat, and I was like, oh, good lord, used to study that a lot. That's yeah.
Perfect.
I need somebody to set my schedule for me. That's my Eisenhower Matrix. Man. Somebody set it for me. He set it for me. So we're gonna take some time to look at some of these questions and stories in the chat. Um, just so we can. Oh, actually, nope. Yeah, actually, we have a question that was submitted early. How do you personalize your experiences for introverted versus extroverted patients?
I love this question so much. I love this question so much because I think this is so important. Um, I actually have worked with a clinic where kind of in their practitioner bios, they say what they are. That I'm extroverted, here I'm extroverted. These are my hobbies. These are the languages I speak. And I think being as forward as saying, like, here's the type of energy I am, and letting people assess, for themselves what's a match. I think there's also a lot that can be done in intake forms. I do try and ask a lot of questions around, the environment, the environmental needs of the person, and music, no music, um, dim lights, lights on, and I think when I think of sort of a true introvert, I think it's about making sure they have enough time to share, making sure that, like reflection for them can be really helpful, sort of making sure they have an email or like their home exercises are sent so they can sort of sit with the information a little bit longer, and think about it, sort of lower, potentially like lower stimulation. Versus I often find extroverts like need a lot of like verbal processing, so maybe we're spending more time on that first day, just like letting them get their story out. And But I think a lot of that, you can tease out through some questions in your intake form. So you sort of have an understanding of who's coming in to see you. And, at the end of the day, it's also asking people what their needs are and how you can support them best, because everybody is a little bit different in those needs. But I think it's a very important consideration. Again, we're not for everyone.
Hmm.
There are some
Hmm.
people that, like, I literally have like pink tie-dye wallpaper on my ceiling. That is not going to be for everyone. And so I think there's a lot of ways we can suss this out before they're feeling like overly invested.
Yeah.
I also love this question because I, like, by nature, I'm just like very high energy. And so when I'm coming to the door, I'm like, hey, like it's it's up here. I'm up here. That's where I like live. That's my baseline. But I think you can cultivate the skill of learning to read the room and learning to read the patient. Which is like kind of brings me back to first impressions are so important. So if I'm like, hi, and they're like, hey, then I'm going to tone it down a little bit. I'm not going to not be myself, but I'm also not going to be yelling in their face.
Yeah.
I'm not yelling, but I think just being able to read the room and taking the time to let them talk and just listen, because I've learned over the past 3-ish years that I tend to want to talk first and just letting them have the microphone, letting them have the floor. And then from there, I can kind of gather where we're going to take the conversation, which direction. Am I going to be a little bit more, not standoffish, but am I going to be kind of just taking things slowly? To Emma's point, am I going to let them tell their story? So yeah, reading the room, I think, is just really helpful. Which I don't really know if there's any scientific way that you can do that. It just kind of comes with experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Just
then
meet that patient where they are. For sure. Go ahead,
oh,
Ron.
sorry. One more. I was going to say, kind of to your point too, I ask a lot of times, like, what kind of learner are you? So
Yeah.
I typically am I'm setting them up on an app where there's a video of either them doing the exercise or some random person on the app doing the exercise. I mean, that's like visual, but I also am like, do you need really good written out instructions as well? Do we need to demonstrate all of these first, which I typically have them do also? That way I know like how are they going to best receive this information and then carry it forward. So that's a helpful little tip.
It's huge.
Yeah. Do
That's
you
also
ever?
something I ask on the intake form, is like how they best learn. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Do you feel like sometimes you have to? So, like, how do you manage not becoming a chameleon? Like, because every patient comes in different. They can be an introverted extrovert, extroverted introvert, full introvert, full extrovert. I feel like it's very important to not lose yourself just because of what type of learner or person they
Yes.
are. Because I feel like that's where we're also going to be more exhausted and we're not going to be able to do the admin time. You set that admin hour and instead of doing marketing, you're taking a nap in one of the chairs, right? Like something,
Yeah.
right?
No. Yeah, I guess I don't want to mislead. I'm never like changing my personality. I'm more so just changing like my approach to how I'm going to educate them and how I'm going to go about my treatment sessions. I'm still myself and they're going to know that I'm like still kind of an outgoing, upbeat person.
Yeah.
But I do think that even if it's someone who's really introverted and prefers like not to be even in like a medical setting, over the two first like 2 3 visits, I typically see like a transformation. Like they will
Mhm.
get comfortable with you. If you're
Yeah.
doing a good job, they're gonna
Mhm.
typically end up leaving like a different person than when they first came in on that first visit.
Yeah.
Because I've had patients where I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna be a good fit. Like I'm just not sure that I'm a good match for them as a PT. And then by visit 3, I'm like, we're having a great time.
Yeah.
So
Yep. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it just like takes some people a little bit more time. And
Hmm.
I think that's like one of the beautiful things about getting to work with somebody longer term versus, in a physician setting. You sort of develop that relationship over time. And I think people who are naturally more introverted, I just tend to find they actually want to go very deep, but it's
Mhm.
like over a longer period of time. You may not find out all of their personal details day one, but you get to know them really, really well over time.
Hmm.
Mhm. Mhm. Just looking at some of the questions in here. One, Emma, what's your supplier's name for the pins?
You know what?
I'll go
I
here.
I know I know people wanted that, and the reason I said I would put it in the Facebook group is because as soon as I said that, I was like, I literally can't think of it in this now
Okay.
moment, but I will
Okay.
put it in the Facebook group. And there was somebody who said they like don't have Facebook. If you don't have Facebook, you may not have Instagram, but you can DM me on Instagram. I will share it. They are in Ontario, Canada, so depending on where you're located,
Tariffs. Tariffs are
you
real.
may want to find
Tariffs are
your own
real.
pin provider.
Tariffs are real.
But
The
yes,
pin's
I will.
55 cents, but the tariffs
I
are
will be.
75 cents. Like so
No
that's
socials. You can also email me. My email is emma@pressplayphysio.com.
yeah, yeah. Um insight for how would is there any recommendations for how to implement some of these ideas that we've discussed today in this webinar for a clinic that has over 25 practitioners?
Yeah. You know, ultimately, I am of the opinion, it's just my opinion, that a clinic cannot necessarily sell their practitioners as well as the practitioner can sell themselves.
Hmm.
And so I think it's important that each practitioner, and this is something I always recommend, is each practitioner sort of reflect for themselves on ways that feel good and right for them. Similar to introverted and extroverted patients, we have introverted and extroverted clinicians. And so what feels good, Roni is like so good on socials and just showing up on social media, and somebody else might be like, "Oh my gosh, please do not videotape me. I never put my face online." Right? Like, we're
Yep,
all
yep,
very different as to what feels
yep.
good and comfortable, and so I
Hmm.
think it is really important as a leader to consider those differences and have people think for themselves. What are the ways that I want to make sure I am promoting myself, marketing myself, and ensuring that your people are doing that. I think if you have a brick and mortar business, kind of looping back to where we started, being active and a part of the community is the best.
Yep.
For me, for the longest time, going to spin class in a roundabout way was marketing, right? Because I was talking to people, I would share what I
Hmm.
did. It's like, how do you just make sure that everyone in your community knows your face, knows what you do, and who you work with? And I
Hmm.
think, that's going to look different for everyone. So I don't think like for a larger clinic, I don't think there's one way. I
Yep.
just think there is the right way for each practitioner, and they ultimately, is whether it's employee, independent contractor, whatever, it doesn't really matter because the relationship that the patient is going to have is with that person,
Hmm.
not as much with sort of the greater clinic. And so really allowing for those individual differences to come out, and that's what tends to lead to most success.
Yeah, yeah. I would think just having a honest and transparent meeting, like knowing what each individual is comfortable with, what their goals are, this, that, and the other. Like if there's individual success, the greater business is going to have success.
Totally. Totally.
One
The
hundred
other
percent.
the other important thing, like as a leader, if it's the leader who's asking this question, like the other important thing is to follow up on it. Like, don't have the conversation
Yep.
of like, how do you want to
Yep.
market? And then 6 months later be, create some
Hmm.
goals around it, create some accountability around it so that you
Hmm.
can start to measure, is what we're doing working?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely. All right. Ronnie, what are top three ways to generate new business aside from referrals? What else has worked for you outside of referrals?
Outside of referrals, well, I guess it depends on what you mean by referral, because I would say a lot of my business also comes from word of mouth.
Okay.
But I guess that's kind of, you could bucket that into what a referral is. I think Google reviews have been really helpful for me.
Mhm.
Shockingly, it's one of those things that I'll have people do on their last day, and probably like an 80% success rate. 20% are like, yeah, I'll do it, and then they never do. But
Yep.
people find you from Google reviews, and that's
Mhm.
been very helpful in the past couple of months. And then some social media presence has helped a little bit, with some of
Some.
yeah. Girl is a celeb. Girl is
Yeah,
a
right.
celeb.
What? Some.
Nah, but I do think that showing up on social media and tagging my location, because a lot of my followers don't live in the state of Tennessee, and they're like, "Oh, like I wish I was close to you." But the ones that do live in Tennessee, I mean, I've had people come in and be like, "I saw one of your reels, and then when I clicked on the Rehab with Roni location, I was thrilled to see that you were 10 miles away." So that's kind of
Mhm.
helpful too, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah.
for sure.
Let's see. What else? Is it Nikamon? Nishaman? I'm having issue with regular long-term clients for referrals. 95% explained if they are referred to me to other people, they will not get an appointment with me easy anymore. Both new and
Mm.
existing clients are not giving out their personal info, address, emails, or even emails. They put opt-out option. They said they don't need junk in their mail email. I do
Mm.
explain to all of them is if I cannot survive for my business, I won't be able to continue as a healthcare worker. They still are not sending anybody my way. I have 15% off for each referral as well, but still did not work. How can I resolve these issues? Acupuncturist and RMT.
Mm. Yeah. I think some of those things Ronnie just talked about, like if referrals aren't coming in, let's make sure your Google My Business page is up to date and has the
Mhm,
link to your Jane booking. So when people Google acupuncture near me, you show up, right? If you don't have a
mhm,
Google My Business page, definitely get one going. Making sure you're honestly, sometimes I think actually connecting with local allied healthcare providers is better than patient referrals, right? If you can connect with other like minded practitioners who either do the exact same thing you do or are different, I think both are important that people know you exist because if you're a practitioner that's fully booked and busy and people are wanting to see you, having somebody to refer out to is really helpful. So I would really make sure that you are connecting with local healthcare providers so that you're getting referrals from other healthcare providers rather than directly from patients.
mhm,
I totally understand like email marketing. I think email marketing is amazing. And a lot of people, I think the retail industry has kind of ruined email marketing for a lot of people because it's so frequent. And so, yeah, having the conversation in person, talking about, this is where I'm sending clinic updates. I'm letting you know when my new schedule is out so you can book in for the day and time you want. Like, make it something that's desirable. It doesn't have
mhm,
to be, like, I think, again, for brick and mortar, it doesn't have to be this, like, people always say it's like a newsletter. And I'm like, no, it's an email. It's an email. It can be 5 lines. It doesn't have to be, 3 hours of you preparing this like smoothie recipe for your clients. It can just be
mhm,
information and important client
mhm,
information. And if you have that in-person conversation, I do find, if you say, I only send an email out once a quarter, and just put it into context for people of what this will actually look like. Like, we're not the Gap sending you 4 emails a day. I think that can be
mhm.
really helpful. But ultimately, if patients aren't referring, there's lots of other options in terms of,
Yep.
of gaining referral sources.
Absolutely. Well said, Emma. Well said. See if there's
All
any
right,
other
guys, I think I might
questions.
have to skedaddle because I have a 3 o'clock
Yep.
patient, but I've had such a
Yep.
lovely time.
Yeah, Ronnie.
So
Thank you very
good.
much, Ronnie. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Good seeing you.
Okay, good seeing
Go
you.
go Irish.
Yeah, that's right. Go Irish.
All right. Let's see. Is there any other questions here in the chat? Did I miss any? Well, I don't think so. Facebook
Did we
page,
miss
movie
anything?
hours. I don't think we did. All right. Well,
Oh,
with that,
Jessica does have a question.
oh, sorry about that.
Do you send out newsletter emails monthly, and if so, what content? Oh, I kind of just covered that.
Yeah, yeah. I
I,
mean,
what
yeah.
do you
The,
do?
I utilize Mailchimp, but I
Okay,
feel like I don't do it so much for the business because I also have my foundation. I do it more with the
right.
foundation, just because business I'm out here marketing yada 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 on a yearly basis with
Yeah,
out in the public, but with the foundation, it's like just to keep us in mind here, there, every quarter or
totally.
something like that, a couple
Yeah,
email or something like that. So, but yeah, I utilize Mailchimp. Um, but creating an email is exhausting. Like Ronnie said, I have to find time and set forth
yeah.
that time to do the admin stuff. But yeah. But with that being said, thank you, Ronnie. She's not here anymore. But Emma, appreciate you very much for joining. I want to share a huge thanks. And not just being great people and being able to vibe with them in Palm Springs, but just for sharing all their experience and like their knowledge in regards to being a cheerleader. You see them on social media; they're doing these great things on social media. They're changing patients' lives. They're building a relationship. They're building rapport, not just with that individual, but in the community. And it was great to hear them share that aspect of their practice and their life. Registration is officially open for the last session that I will be the host at Advanced Office Hours. They want to kick me off. You know what I mean? They just get rid of me 6 months done.
Brought
You
out
ain't
the
doing a good job.
cane,
No,
eh?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I had 6 months. It was a great time. So please check the chat. Jack put the link in the chat. We'd love for you to join as we talk with Ali Joy, a licensed professional counselor and board certified art therapist. And together we'll share our experience in finding our own niches and our tips to help define your unique expertise and attract patients who need you the most. Um, that's it for the Jane community. Thank you very much, Emma. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We'll see you next month.
Guys.